Hi there and welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm IceMan and today we are going to be doing another champion guide. This time it is on Valla. Now she's not a champion you tend to hear really anything about, to be fair, these days. The reason I thought I would do a guide on her is she was actually my first epic and I got her right at the start of my raid career, and she soon became my campaign farmer. She was in my arena teams. This champion was just about everywhere. Is she a top tier champion? No, she's definitely very middle of the pack. She's certainly not one of those completely crap champions that isn't worth using at all. And I have to say, barbarians are brilliant faction. I do rather enjoy them. I enjoy like their aesthetic and whatnot. So anyway, Valla, she's a spirit champion, as you can see, defense based, epic, obviously. Now, just to give you a little bit of history on the character, not that you probably care really, to be honest, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So Valla came into the game as a free giveaway as part of an Amazon Prime promotion, and along with Ultimate Gaelic and along with Whisper, I believe. Now, I actually missed out on those two champs because I joined the game right at the end of this. So I joined just in time for her coming out, which was like the last week of February or something. Quite, it was that long ago. So, you know, it's been a while, but she was a brilliant champ, and she, in the early game and early days and even mid game, she did a lot of work for me. You know, it took a long time before I actually swapped her out and stopped using her. And don't get me wrong, I don't use her anymore. I wouldn't quite class myself as an end-game player. Doom Towers definitely disabused me of that notion. Valla, yeah, real interesting champion, defense base, as we already said. And let's take a look at her skills. So her A1, Piercing Blade, attacks one enemy 2 times, increases the inflicted damage by 15% if the target is under a shield buff. The only thing you can book here is damage. She's not a main damage dealer. She was, like I say, she was my campaign farmer. She's got some good ability. She does some okay damage, but she's not a nuker by any stretch of the imagination. Where she's really handy is she's very survivable, yet still does a reasonable amount of damage. She has that survivability about her, so you know, that's why I like the character. And then her A2, and this is my favourite ability of hers, Crush the Wall. Removes all shield buffs on all enemies, then attacks all enemies, has a 30% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Damage is based on defense, obviously. You can increase this up by another 20%, take it up to 50. Obviously, if you go for the right mastery, you can take that up to 55. The cooldown starts off at 4, you can reduce it down to 3, so it's on a 3-turn cooldown, which is quite cool. And like I say, it removes all shield buffs, so that's quite a good move in itself. Alright, it's not a full-on cleanse, so it's not going to remove all buffs and whatnot, but it will remove shields, which is great. Obviously, you maybe want to do your A1 before you do that, because obviously she actually does more damage to people under shields, and this removes shields. But this also does a nice amount of damage, and I personally don't worry too much about the decreased defense. If you haven't got one built out, although you can easily farm a rare to do the job from the Barbarians faction, funny enough, and you know, she'll do that job for you anyway. I personally don't worry too much about the accuracy and trying to build her out to use this role, because obviously it is only a 50% chance, it's not very high. Having said that, if you don't have anybody, if you haven't taken out the time to build anybody else out to do it, she can do decreased defense for you, just not as reliably. But back when I started the game, you know, this hit hard. This hit really hard. You know, Kale was my starter champion, and when they were both similar sort of areas, this actually hit harder than his abilities, I think. Part of that might have been the way I had them built, and obviously I didn't have the knowledge of the game back then and all the rest of it that I do now. But still, it seemed to me like it was a good hard hitting ability. And Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't say she's an endgame champion by any stretch of the imagination, but if you pull her early on, she's definitely going to do good work for you in the early and mid game, and that's where I think she lies. Don't get me wrong, you can use her in the end game. I just think that obviously by that time you will have pulled champions that outclass her, and while she can still do the job and is still usable in those places, you're just going to have champions that do better jobs, do more damage, are more sustainable, work better in comps. So her real strength lies in early and mid game, to be honest, which is fine. You know, that's true for many characters. I mean, Gorgrab's a prime example. Many people say he's really a mid game sort of character, who give you that speed boost and whatnot, but he's no arbiter, you know. Having said that, he still gives you that full team revive and all the rest of it, and he still has his place in the game, and a lot of people really love using him. Just because he's going to fall off by the time you get to end game doesn't make him a bad champion, you know. So anyway, we'll carry on. Array 3, Fortified Core, places a shield buff on this champion for 3 turns equal to 20% of their max HP. Also places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 3 turns, and fills this champion's turn meter by 50%. This is a nice little ability. Again, you can book it down from 4 to 3 turns. Turn meter boost, increased defense, and a shield. So this helps really keep her alive. It is a great ability. It's on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Places a shield buff, gives her a lot of survivability. Because she's a defensive based champion, also allows her to hit harder. You can't knock that. It's going to increase her damage. Okay, she also has a passive, decreases the damage received by this champion by 15% while under a shield buff. So even if she's not the one putting the shield buff, she's still going to receive 15% less damage, which is great. That you know, it's a straight up damage mitigation of 15%. That's nothing to sneeze at. Okay, let's take a look at her artifacts. So you could argue putting her in accuracy banner if you want to try and use that decreased defense. I'm not trying to use it, so I've gone straight up defensive banner with speed and defense as substats. Get that defense right up. Actually, before we carry on, let's take a look at her total stats. Now, I haven't managed to get her stats crazy, but she does have good solid starting defense at 1400. You can't knock that, that's really good. Speed's not bad at 99. For an epic, that's just fairly decent. There are a number of legendaries that don't have that good a speed. And then I've managed to get a crit rate up to 99. I know it'd be better at a perfect 100, but you know, I couldn't quite manage to get there. Not without losing other stats that just overall make her worse, so it just didn't make sense for me. I've got a crit damage up to 141. Now, I would say prioritise the defensive stats on her. You want to be in tanky, you want to sit in there being annoying, but she can do some damage, and she'll be able to chip away at people if she's staying alive. So if you can sort of balance these, I think that works rather well, myself personally. Obviously, I've not completely neglected her accuracy. Part of that obviously is the fact that I get 50 from the Great Hall anyway, and then I got bits of accuracy here and there from other bits because they were the best I had. I didn't go out my way to get them or roll for them, but yeah, so that's how it's ended up. I've gone for, because I do want to do some damage with it, it could be argued that you could easily do a defensive neck here, but I've gone for a crit damage neck with defense and resistance on the substats. Defense ring with defense rolls. Obviously I didn't roll that well here, unfortunately, but I didn't really have a lot of options. I think it was the only defense ring I had without stealing it off of somebody like Valkyrie. Again, you know, she's not in any 6-star gear here. There's one legendary piece, but then there's also a green piece, blue piece. You know, most of it's epic. You know, it's a nice balanced set to give you an idea. I've got her in a defense set. Obviously, she straight up benefits from increased defense. So, you know, if she does more damage, she's going to be more tanky, take more hits. So it just makes sense. I couldn't quite find a third set for her, unfortunately. I went with what I had for best stats and what I needed. So I have gone crit rate gloves. Again, you could easily argue going for crit defense gloves and just really making her tanky as hell. But I think she can hit okay. Like I said earlier on, she used to be my campaign farmer at the start for me, so, and she did that relatively well. She wasn't super fast by any stretch of the imagination. I think the best I got her to was about 40 seconds on 12-3, thereabouts. So no 12-second campaign farmer, but she could easily farm it reliably for me, which was what I needed at the time, so you know, that's great. And because of her tankiness, she just, even if it took her a bit longer, she always managed to do it. Then we've got the chest. Obviously I've gone for defense. I've concentrated on trying to get sort of speed sub rolls. I ended up with a crappy HP roll here really, but you know, sometimes you just take what you've got gear wise. I didn't have enough silver to roll up anything else, so I took this. I probably could have got better gear on, but you know. Speed boots. I always like to run champions in speed boots, to be honest. Unless you've got lots of really good gear with good sub rolls in speed and whatnot, that you can build their speed up enough without it. 40 speed's nothing to sneeze at, you know, and it's hard to make up elsewhere. You could argue putting her in defense boots with a sub stat in speed, and also, and then you're just going to get her even more defensive. But hey, it is what it is. Again, similar sort of thing. Crit rate, crit damage, defense, crit damage. Yes, I know there's a couple of accuracies here, like I say, they just happen to be there. I wasn't going for them. Crit rate and speed. So, you know, the main things I was concentrating on was crit rate, crit damage, speed, and defense. Those were the stats I was prioritising with her. Obviously, it helps if you can get her health up anyway, because she does get that shield based off of health. So, I mean, I've got her at 26,000, nearly 27,000, which isn't bad. It's not right up there. But again, because it's a selfish shield just for her, it's not something I'd really go out of my way to rely on necessarily. So let's take a look at her masteries while we're here. Now, there's a lot of ways you could do her masteries. I mean, that's true for any character, really. She's still in the mastery. I didn't want to spend the gems to do her masteries, and I would have to. So she's still in the masteries I had for her. Because I used her just about everywhere, I had her down into War Master and down a sort of, I'd say, arena buildish type thing, and then shimmying off over to War Master. A damage on bosses, because again, like I say, I was using her in dungeons, I was using her in keeps, I was just using her absolutely everywhere at the start when I first got her. It's not a bad set. I personally would actually re-gear this and go defensive myself now and get counter attack and stuff like that to make her more annoying and even more tanky. But because she's not a regular in my rotation and I'm just using her now for a guide, I don't want to waste the gems, quite frankly. I'm sorry if that upsets anybody, but you could probably understand if you were in the same situation, you wouldn't want to either. So you've got a thing here where she increases the value of shield buffs that she casts by 5%. Obviously she casts her own shield, so that's fine. Increased accuracy. When I first started using it, I was hoping for that. Decreased defense to land, and it quite often did. Obviously we've got Law Master for any basic sets on her. And then we've got Evil Eye to decrease turn meter. And then obviously we went for Sniper to help her out with that ability. So that's stuff in a nutshell. I mean, it's difficult, to be honest. You could, if you're not going to build it for accuracy anyway, you could maybe even keep the damage in but go defensive rather than going for the support tree, and that would actually probably be obviously lose the 5% from Sniper, but then if you're not aiming to try and use that decreased defense, it doesn't really matter anyway. So that's probably a really good way to go. would be defense and offense rather than offense and support. So anyway, let's take her into some content. We'll show you what she can do a little bit, and yeah. So dungeons, obviously she's not going to be great in the spider. She's not really going to bring anything. Fire Knight's Castle, she's not bad. Like I say, she does a bit of damage. She's got a double hitter, so you know, especially early game when you need multi-hitters to take down the Fire Knight's shield, she's actually quite useful there. If you don't have loads of multi-hitters, she's at least got a 2-hitter. She's tanky, she can do some strength. I do believe she's the wrong affinity. No, actually she's strong affinity, so actually yeah, she'd do kind of good for you there. I don't think she'd really bring anything to my team, showing her off here. And if I was to take her in there, I'd have to show you an entirely different team, built more out of the sort of champions you're going to have mid-game to really sort of showcase her. Ice Golem's Peak. Again, she's neutral affinity, so she does alright here. And she's tanky, so she can take plenty of hits. She can break through shields and stuff, you know. She can be used in any of these dungeons, barring spiders den, I would say. Dragon's Lair, obviously she's the wrong affinity. Having said that, she's tanky enough that it doesn't really matter. She's still going to help you deal with things, and she's going to stay alive for the most part. But where I really feel she is usable for longer, I would have to say, would be the arena. And although I don't use her in the arena, oh no, we've got the bot page up. We'll get off of that. We've got another bot page. Yeah, we've got another bot page. Okay, so I've gotten the bot teams out of the way, and although it's slightly higher team power than mine, I think I'll try and show you a more attainable team using Valla, the sort of team I maybe would have run back then. Now, you might call it cheating a bit, but you know, Valkyrie was in my team back then, so I'm going to showcase with her because she's who I had. And we'll use Miscreated Monster for some defense, and we'll use Valla. And I'll tell you what, bring in the level 50 Mausoleum Mage, not Mausoleum Mage, Gorgrab, and see how this goes against him. Obviously, we're still a weaker power. There's a good chance this is actually still a bot team, but it's actually a fairly well laid out bot team with some good champs, so this might not be the cakewalk that you'd expect. So, we'll put the increased defense on her. Stuns we can. Alright, so here's our A2. This is the sort of damage you can get out of it. See, 20k, 20k, 18k. As with no decreased defense, but it's landed a decreased defense, even with my low accuracy. So that's not too bad. You can see the sort of damage she does. I'll tell you what, if you're going to argue that maybe this is, I mean, we're up against 3 legendaries here. Slightly lower than me, but I'll tell you what, we'll even take out Valk and we'll swap in. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll put in Mausoleum Mage. So she's our main damage dealer. Speed range. this one. So we got increased defense, I believe. Yeah. And increased crit rates, and the crit rates now over 100%. So we don't need to put that up on ourselves. We'll just go straight for the O2 and see what sort of damage it does. Not bad. See, 1 out of 4 got the decreased defense because of the low accuracy. Poisons here a little bit. She's got a shield anyway. Can do more damage under shield. Didn't do much there, it was off affinity. See, like, I mean, we're up against a team with 3 decent legendaries here. And this is a team full of epics. A bit better there, so 5k hit. Buffs, put buffs and all that up again. And that's our biggest hit, and like I mean, you know, it may only do between 10 and 20k, but early to mid game, that's a pretty solid hit. And again, you know, she's not built out purely for damage, she's built to be a sort of hybrid, so she can take hits and dish out a bit of damage. There you go. Not negative infinity, that she's got a good solid hit in there. Yeah, 6k hit. Here we go again, so that's razzing down. We get that decreased defense out there. Obviously, it's a very slow strategy, this one, using her. But my point is, she's probably going to be, I mean, you know, if you're really low early starting game and you manage to pull her, she's going to be useful for DPS, for survivability, but she's also going to be very good for your defense team. She'll be hard to take down, and she'll strip shields and stuff, which will really annoy people going up against her. Especially since many players may not even know what she does because they won't have looked at her that closely. Because they'll just think she's some crap champion that nobody needs to know anything about. So, right, I don't want to drag this video out any longer. I think what we'll do is we'll take her for a quick campaign run just to show you she can do it. No promises about the sort of time she's going to come in at, mind you. Okay, so we've got some food there, she goes in. So A2 just completely floors a group. It's a shame A1 isn't AoE as well. She'd be so much better than she is with 2 AoEs, but as is, you know, solid champion. And then again, that comes around, she just floors them, and this is why she's not quite so fast, because although she can kill them and survive, killing people with her A1, it's her A2 that slams the entire groups down like that. And yeah, there you go. I mean, that's not bad, is it? 32 seconds. You know, if you're looking at your first campaign farmer you saw she's not in silly gear. She's in, I'd say, mid-game gear. She's not in starter gear, but then, you know, if you're right at the start of the game, you're not going to be doing 12-3 straight away. And when you first get to 12-3, it's probably going to be a bit of a struggle. But once you're at that sort of level, you're progressing through the dungeons, you're going to be farming 5-star gear. So you're going to get to that sort of stage. So all in all, quick rundown of her. She's a great early game champion, great mid game champion. She could probably even do a little bit of work for you if you need anybody in Tag Team Arena. But she's not really end game viable. But she is a really good champion, and I certainly wouldn't sleep on her. I mean, I took her to 60. I don't use her anymore, but I wouldn't say I regret leveling her, because she was the best I had at the time. And like I say, I used her for months before I replaced her. And oh, you know what it's like. Champions you use at the start that you use for everything, they slowly come out of teams as you get better people. So it might be that they'll come out of your arena, but they'll still be in everything else initially. Then they'll come out of that dungeon, then they'll come out of that dungeon. Sooner or later, they end up sitting in your vault because you just don't use them anywhere. And to be fair, that's what she is for me. But she is still a really good champion if you've got her early game. And you know what? Thinking about it, I'd maybe use her. I mean, again, I've got a lot of legendaries, so in the Barbarian faction, so I wouldn't even need her for faction wars. But she'll do some work for you in faction wars as well. Very tanky, can take a lot of hits, can dish out some damage as well, so she can help clear waves. So all in all, I think she is a worthwhile champion and certainly worth your time and worth looking at. Thank you for watching. If you've stayed with me to this point, I really appreciate it. Please give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. It lets YouTube know that it's a good video and more people should watch it. And you know, if you like my content, please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and you'll get notified when I do my next video. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.